So I'm joined today by Ustina Choi from Contact, Miguel Molina from GMV, Vijay, Sineha from Comtech, and Joe Delore from SD Engineering. So first question, how far along is the digital transformation and virtualization of the satellite ground segment within your organization or your customer's organization? And what key milestones have been achieved thus far? Do you want to start, Joe?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Thanks for having us here on this panel. So yeah, as you have seen in the video, maybe as an introduction, so I'm Joe Delore, Vice President of Market Development within SD Engineering iDirect, also working on longer-term projects. As you have seen in the video, virtualization, digitalization is key to our strategy, right? It's part of Intuition, our platform that we launched this year as well. So, and to get to that, right, we had to make a couple of steps, right? Because of course, as everybody in our industry and other industries, we're looking as well to adoption of cloud. We need more flexibility. But how do we start that journey, right? So we're using private clouds as well on our platforms, like Dialog or Velocity. But now how do we get to the next step, right? How do we look further in virtualization? How do you look further so that you as a customer can start consuming cloud service provider resources as well to run your networks, to run your ground system? So over the last 2 years, we have done a lot of work with Microsoft AWS to do proof of concepts as well, to see how and what we can run on that public cloud, right? So that was key, right? So we've done proof of concepts to run our NMS in the cloud, which is of course the obvious one. We've done proof of concept to run the modems and the baseband in the cloud as well, right? To understand how it can be run, but also to understand what type of resources it needs, how it can be run effectively, and also what can be the total cost of ownership to that. So that's one that we did with Microsoft. Then we did also proof of concepts to run our packet processing, so the network processing, the real-time data part as well in the public cloud with Microsoft. So again, a good learning, right? Because both on our side, but also on the cloud service provider side, I mean, these are not so obvious things, right? To run a real-time network in the public cloud. So we're further working as well on proof of concepting and developing the DeFi standard as well, which is a key enabler as well to use further virtualization, public cloud consumption as well. So a lot of steps that we are taking to build that road forward, right? But also to work together with, for example, cloud service providers, our customers, to kind of show the value and educate as well. Yeah, where do you use public cloud? Where do you use private cloud? What makes sense from a total cost of ownership perspective? So a lot of things to take into account, but we'll talk about that a bit further in the next steps.
Okay, great. Ustina?
Yes, thank you. Thank you to APSCC for inviting me to the panel. So my colleague, Mr. Kiwan Choi, probably went through an extensive introduction to Contact. So I'm Ustina, in charge of strategy and business development at Contact. And we provide mainly a ground station as a service. And our ground station as a service solution is currently on a cloud platform that was developed in-house along with our partner AWS. So through our cloud-based platform, the satellite operators, mainly Earth observation operators, are able to go in and connect and manage and operate their satellites through any one of our 10 ground stations, which are currently in operation. For our company, we take pride in offering value-added services. So we provide satellite imagery processing and analytics and applications, and we are also taking the effort to put into our satellite applications and analytics solution on the cloud as well. So that would be also in line with our ground station cloud-based platform as well. So those are the steps that we are taking. We haven't fully reached virtualization and a complete digital transformation, but we're taking small steps to get there. And I think we slowly are seeing that there are other GSaaS providers who are also taking the steps for cloud-based platforms as well as cybersecurity along with that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. And Vijay.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. Having started this process about 3 years ago, while in constant discussion with our commercial and defense customer, including satellite and cloud operators, we believe we are probably one of the most advanced companies who have adapted to digital transformation and virtualization. Our concept has been including satellite and cloud operators, beginning a software-defined SATCOM platform. We are now operating our network NMS in both data center or cloud. Okay, we have added processing capabilities to include both resources, namely bandwidth, access mode, RF power management, and hardware elements management in the SATCOM network ecosystem. We have developed the algorithm to allow multi-orbit operation with system operating on GEO, LEO networks for a year now. All the hardwares required are available today, and we are finalizing and the validation and testing for a full launch in 2025. Thanks.
Great. And Miguel, where is GMV in the virtualization?
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the invitation. And thank you to be there. Just after lunch is always a challenge. Then thank you very much to participate. Then let me explain a little bit where we are at GMV on this. GMV is a well-recognized company for ground segment activities. We are developing ground segment for different type of mission: telecom, Earth observation, navigation, scientific, Earth exploration, and launchers. And on all of this, we are providing the full solution and the complete integrated solution. Where we are in virtualization, well, we started several years ago on this issue, and then today we have a solution which is fully virtualized for both, for satellite control or for payload management. On this, we incorporate, it has been a complex process mainly because of the flexibility and the software-based components that have been incorporated to our system. But today is something which is fully developed and helping a lot, mainly in the integration process and helping a lot in the automation process. We have solutions today which are fully automated, providing a major advantage to the operators in the way in which they need to control the systems and minimize a lot the intervention of the human operators. And in addition to this, I can say today you have a solution, complete solution, providing help and control for constellations. We are able to provide a solution managing a constellation of hundreds of satellites with a minimum intervention in the control side. And in the other side, for payloads, we are also today solution oriented to software-defined payloads, software-defined satellites with thousands of bins and hundreds of thousands of channels, which are fully automated and fully controlled with the system.
Great. And excuse me, staying with you, Miguel, are there any other specific technologies being employed to facilitate digital transformation and virtualization?
Well, on this, basically we have been incorporating microservices, including machine-to-machine connections. And oh, sorry, I was saying, we incorporate solutions by incorporating microservices, including machine-to-machine interface, and deployment in private clouds with Kubernetes, which give us full flexibility. Today, we are using as a deployment, we are mainly based on private cloud deployments. That don't mean that we are not able to do it in public cloud. This is more because of the requirements from the customers, and they want to care about the security of the access to the data.
Great. Joe, specific technologies?
Yeah, so as I said before, we have done a lot of groundwork together with the cloud service providers, right, over the past 2 years. So we keep investing into that as well. So by that, we have kind of, let's say, experienced what we need to adjust for to do that virtual network function deployment, to do more containerization. How can we run, right, high traffic loads, real-time network, jitter-sensitive applications as well on cloud, public cloud as well, right? So all very key learning curves, which we are now bringing together in our product as well, of course. And that's why we say that we are really cloud native product, right? We can deploy our technology on private cloud, but we can also deploy parts of our technology on public cloud, right? And so that's what we see as an important capability. Miguel was talking about that as well. Some customers have security requirements where they mandate more private cloud on a private infrastructure, right? Other customers maybe are less constrained by security requirements, but it's a bit compared to your IT departments, as an example, right? So if you ask your IT departments, hey, do you use the cloud? I think all of them now will say yes, right? But then we also had like that interaction over the past years with our customers and with the cloud service providers and say, yeah, but is the cloud, does it cost less? It depends, right? It depends for what you use it, right? So, and I think that's a key observation that we have is, yeah, the cloud service providers, public cloud is there, right? Use it where it makes sense, right? And that's why we give you the deployment options to deploy public cloud, private cloud. From a network management perspective, like Vijay was talking about it, of course, that's the obvious one, but also potentially on the modulation, demodulation, what we call the baseband functions, or on the packet processing, the real-time network processing functions as well. But yeah, think about your business, think about total cost of ownership as well, right? Because I think Ustina will talk about Earth observation more as well. Yeah, one of the characteristics of satellite communications or even terrestrial networks is a very high traffic load for most of the day, right? If you run everything on a cloud, public cloud, I mean, certainly with the current cloud business models, high throughput, high traffic load, this is very costly, right? So what our advice is, look at the total cost of ownership, look at the use cases where you want to use public cloud and where you use private cloud. Give an example, if you have a gateway which has a lot of traffic, which is in use 24/7, and you need to equip it with the platform, satellite communications platform, yeah, public cloud would be probably a would be very costly to deploy, right? So maybe their private cloud is a good solution, but then there is other use cases where maybe it's for disaster resilience that you want to rapidly spin up some resources on top when something happens. But yeah, that's where cloud plays a very good role, right? So key messages, think about total cost of ownership and deployment options. So we have public, private cloud in our platform, and the same on the modulation, demodulation. So we have what we call a universal baseband function, which is a very scalable, very flexible, high-capacity modulation, demodulation universal device, which is appliance, right? It's your dedicated appliance. You can run modulation, demodulation function as well in the cloud, but it's very processing consuming, right? Again, total cost of ownership-wise, look at it, what makes sense where. I think that's the key takeaway I want to give as well.
Okay. Ustina, any specific technologies to add?
No, it's okay.
Okay. All right. Vijay, what are the primary drivers behind the push for digital transformation and virtualization in the ground segment?
Okay, so for us, it starts from the space segment itself. Global LEO constellation requires traffic orchestration and resource management on a global scale. So very high throughput satellites are imposing specific beam hopping requirements. Customers are moving their databases into cloud or private data centers. Top-level applications are now cloud-based mostly, right? So we also need to bring hardware costs and power consumption drastically down when we are moving towards the virtualization or digital transformation. On top-level application, okay, in order to allow the teleport to access this new market. Then there is also a pure traffic demand, with most satellite being able now to handle multiple 500 megahertz beam over 15 gigabits per second of traffic. Adding on to this, massive demand for high-speed mobility and increased cybersecurity also taking place. None of this can be done with a traditional VSAT architecture today.
Okay. Ustina or Joe? Same question.
Yes, Joe mentioned a lot of the things that I also wanted to mention, but I'll just add that as a company that's really focused on serving Earth observation customers, I mentioned that we do have a cloud-based platform, but it's partially on the cloud. So our customer has a lot of needs. Sometimes the government customer doesn't really want to touch up on the cloud. They prefer the old ways, which is why, as I was talking with Joe before the panel session, we were talking about hybrid forms. So we do allow public or the use of private cloud for the customer, but it's also important to listen to their needs. And if they are less willing to be digital, then we also provide the option to do the past scheduling or the data processing through our cloud, and then also, but put the data onto their own server directly from our own ground station. So the option of virtualization is great, but costly in some sense. But it's also great to have a hybrid option to provide a more variety of ways for them to access their satellite, their data, and their needs.
Yeah, maybe if I may add to that, I think Vijay already talked a bit about that, right? But there's a major shift happening in our industry, right? Of course, there's the disruption part as well, which we talked about it already. But then, you know, we're also going to that more dynamic, flexible environment of fully software-defined satellites or partially software-defined satellites, right? And then the multi-orbit aspect to that as well. So yeah, how should you think about these software-defined satellites, right? So now you have a toolbox in space. I always call it like a toolbox in space, right? Which is 100% software programmable, right? Simply stated. You can do the beamforming, you can allocate bandwidth and power to beams, so it's quasi 100% programmable, right? It can do unlimited number of spot beams as well, right? So we can talk about 10, 50, 100, 500 spot beams. So very flexible in space. So what you need as well is this flexible toolbox on the ground, right? Only when you have the combination of those two, then you can deliver value of that new capability, right? And that's for the satellite operators, but that's also, of course, for the service providers addressing the end user. It's very important that you can take that value forward. So now what's the consequence, right? We also, and our customers need flexibility to deploy the infrastructure also over time, right? You cannot anymore afford to say like, okay, I'm gonna light up a new service over this country or this region, and it's gonna take me 3 months to ship equipment and so on and so on. No, you put the infrastructure in place. It has to have enough flexibility, right, to scale up to the number of beams, to the throughput as well, so that you can deploy rapidly, flexibly, in a scalable way, right? And that's what intuition is about, right? So you have like an infrastructure, can be that private environment, appliance-based, can be complemented with cloud service provider deployment options, but the key thing is that it's very flexible and it can scale to a large scale, right? So that's key focus of intuition. So it's unlimited number of beams, so we should try to match that from the ground segment as well, that we can also cope with that flexibility of number of beams, more capacity, adding potentially NGSO part as well. So more deployment, flexibility, time to market is key for our customers, right? And that's where we see virtualization in general a key value, right? Because exactly provides that flexibility either on private or public cloud.
If I may, something very quick and very brief. Added to all these things, for us also has been very important to have the capability to provide us services in an easy way to the final customer. The new player, the new market is trying to invest the money in the things that are really providing business for them. They don't want to have a responsibility behind an infrastructure that they need to keep care for the obsolescence, they need to keep care for the security, that they give me the solution from you directly, and I don't care about this. And this approach, using virtualized environments and using the cloud environment, is a perfect solution to provide the services for the operation of the systems.
Okay, we've addressed my next question, but does, excuse me, Vijay or Ustino want to address the impact of operational efficiency, scalability, and flexibility that virtualization will have?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So in context opinion, I guess since I'm representing Contact, virtualization has really impacted our service a lot. So we are providing RF ground stations, but we are slowly moving to optical ground stations, and those include a completely different style of customers and needs and requirements. But we're also applying that through our cloud platform, and along with collaborating with AWS, along with our antenna manufacturer partners like Safran or Kai Labs, we're really working together to put one network, whether it be RF and OGS, that are easily accessible, easily taskable, in that sense for the ground station part. But we are also providing the value added part. And that is also partially on the cloud for now, because we're starting to see that, yes, AWS does provide a good AI ML toolkit for data processing and analytics and solutions. And it's really great to have that option on the cloud. But then it's also, we have already defined and refined our solutions on that side as well, that we're starting to see that maybe sometimes our performance is better than what we are provided on the cloud as a service from our provider. So we're also really working to kind of be more flexible for that. But then also on the end user side of our customers, they're also having the option to be flexible with not only managing their satellites, but also to get the data, do what they want with the data to get the end results that they need for their customers or their own use. So it's really, I think, a both win-win situation for virtualization. It's just that there's high cost to get the resources, to implement the infrastructure, and to spend the time to actually transition over.
Okay, great. Vijay, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I think for Comtech, most important is the optimizing the teleport resources, right? The full network concept becomes now highly dynamic, with traffic being moved in millisecond to our best RF link. This is very different from the static concept deployed today, where you set your RF power level and bandwidth, and they don't touch it for a couple of years. A lot of teleport capacity is idle and not used for traffic, cannot be routed due to the cables and electronic connections. Yeah.
Okay, great.
To that, I think Miguel already talked about that. I think one of the aspects as well is automation, right? And one of the key things as well is that flexibility, scalability, but also automation. Right, because now again, come back to that software-defined satellite. You have this payload flexibility, right? You have then the ground segment toolkit, but how do you bring that together, right? So you need also that automatic orchestration of that end-to-end solution, right? So then you can automate how you run the network, how you use the resources. You can automate how you operate the payload, how you change the configuration of the payload and the ground together. Right, and that's where you need that resource orchestration applications as well, right? So our technology, our intuition platform, key is to integrate with the resource orchestration application. It's a domain where Miguel is also working on as well. So that's a crucial element as well, is enabling that automation, right? So that you can take advantage of that flexibility and create more value to your customers. So that's also a key enabler, I would say, of virtualization.
Okay, to add something more oriented to the operations, these virtualized environments are helping us a lot in the efficiency of the systems. We can activate and deactivate the process in a better way. For example, for a typical constellation, when we need to have a satellite, when we have a satellite in visibility and we will activate telemetry and telecom activities, this is more simple. It's faster, and more simple, and more efficient. The same thing when we are trying to do the processing of the data when the data is available. We don't need to. We have a better approach in this configuration. Another point, which is also very interesting, is scalability. We can evolve in a very easy way the system to incorporate new satellite. And this is particularly interesting when we are deploying constellations, which is something that we are today is on the table regularly. And then to finish, the system is also offering a better way for the flexibility in the incorporation of new capabilities to our system. We can incorporate, if our constellation is evolving because they are incorporating new capabilities in the payload or new capabilities in the satellite, it will be very easy to evolve the system to incorporate those capabilities on the ground.
Okay, great. Back to you, Joe. what challenges or obstacles have been encountered in the process of implementing digital transformation and virtualization, and how are these being addressed?
Yeah, it's one of the elements I talked about before. I think the biggest takeaway for us is, of course, that technology innovation, but then also looking together with our customers and partners like cloud service providers as well in total cost of ownership, right? So that's a key element as well, because in the end, yeah, virtualization and cloud is all nice, but it's all about creating value for the customer and making the business case for the operator and the service providers, right? So that was a key learning as well as part of that technology innovation. So to have a broader adoption of cloud from what comes to the baseband platform, you know, the VSAT platform, the key functions on modulation, demodulation, as well as processing. I mean, there's still some road to go, I would say. And it's not surprising because even on the terrestrial networks, they are still struggling with the same aspect, right? So it's not an industry-specific thing to kind of come up with the business model. Second part as well, and that's also, I think, good from a virtualization perspective. You know, we're a big believer in standardization, evolving to that 5G environment as well. So standardization today, DVB, we talked about DIFI, the digital interface. But now looking forward, we are evolving to that 5G integration, right? So there's a big push now in our industry. So we're a big believer of that. We're very open to collaborate with players in the ecosystem so that we jointly advance that standardization, right? Because that's where we really differentiate ourselves. Now, virtualization also provides flexibility to deploy maybe tomorrow a network on DVB and then evolve to 5G, right? First step that we see on 5G is integration with a 5G core, but then again, if and where it makes sense, also running 5G NR waveforms and a full 5G stack, 5G user terminals as well. So that's also enabled that technology innovation gives you a smooth path as well through virtualization.
Great. Ustina, any other challenges or opportunities or challenges?
Yeah. Challenges. So what we experienced is, as the only ground station provider in Korea, we had to help a lot with the Korean Aerospace Research Institute, with our partners and our customers as well. So we found that they use old hardware. So what was the biggest thing was convincing them to, you know, join with us and move on to the cloud platform for the ground network. But then that also took resources. So as I mentioned before, the hybrid path really opened up new doors to save up on some of the costs, but also provide support and show them that virtualization can be a better option in the sense. But then the second part is security. So yes, we are on the cloud, but not all of our functions are on the cloud. So we provide path scheduling as well as our analytics and solutions. But we are also concerned with security. So when you have a large network and when you have all these assets onto the cloud, network security is definitely something we are concerned with. We're also concerned with communication security. So with our optical ground stations, we're implementing security measures. We're also collaborating with local universities to bring some of the awareness of cybersecurity in space, but then also collaborating to bring solutions to the ground segment as well. So that's how we're tackling those challenges.
Good. Vijay?
Yeah. So Comtech being one of the early adapters for software-defined solutions, right? So we used to have a universal hardware for the remote, and then we develop a in-house software where we can, get this upgraded in the system technology and so on and so forth, right? So this is extremely important to us, where an upgrade requires in all the hardwares, new hardwares, moving to virtual and digitized SATCOM architecture will allow us to run on a secured network on which we can do live update without traffic interruption. So this is the kind of adoption or way forward, Comtech is looking forward to digital transformation and virtualization.
Okay, great.
Let me only one
Go ahead.
point finish. There is a point that we don't mention, but it is the price of the cloud. This is a limitation. Then it's something that I'm sure that we will We will invest on this and we will optimize in this way. And also there is another point is that I'm not talking more, not about the new players, but more of the traditional players in this space, that they trust on this solution based on the cloud, because they are traditionally more oriented to a solution with the owner of the infrastructure, the owner of the system. Now, the system is in another place, and they need to be trust on the privacy of the data, on the continuity of the services, on the sharing of the responsibility between the provider and the operator. Then there are things that we need to improve in the deployment. And there is a final cost, which is also very important, is the migration of the systems. How we go for the system to a system which is now virtualized and deployed in a cloud. There is a cost with the migration and the trust at the end on what the cloud is doing.
Okay, great. Can you discuss any cost implications associated with the digital transformation and virtualization, including initial investment costs and long-term operational savings? Joe?
Yeah, I think I already talked about it, right? Of course, yeah. If you think about using public cloud, it becomes OpEx, right? There's no less CapEx concern, but it comes at a cost, right? And I'm not going to repeat, but just compare it. I think if you would, all of us, talk to your IT department, probably a couple of years back, they say, wow, the cloud, it's the Valhalla, right? Flexibility, we can scale up, anything you want, it's OpEx based. I think if I talk from our operations perspective today to our IT department, then they say we're more selective where we are using the cloud, right? I think that's just the reality in general of using public cloud, right? It brings value, use it where it brings value. Where it brings less value, yeah, look at total cost of ownership and make the balance, right? That's a bit my advice. And that's why it's important that we provide both options, private cloud, public cloud, to deploy baseband technology.
Anybody else on cost implications?
Not particularly. I think we already covered this.
All right. What are the anticipated future developments in the digital transformation and virtualization of the satellite ground segment, and how do you envision these shaping the future of satellite operations and services? Who wants to go first?
I think I already talked about it, right? I mean, evolving to that 5G environment is a key element for us. That's how we see how we can differentiate ourselves as well versus other vertically integrated players, right, which are just focused on their own service. So we as an industry, doing that collaboration, doing that standardization, collaborate more, right? We are competitors, but still, it's my belief, it's our belief that collaboration is key, right? Let's use the strengths of the players in our ecosystem, which is now expanded as well with 5G technology providers. Let's use those strengths, right? Let's work together to that future environment of an open system, which is fully based on standardization as well. And then again, take advantage of where 5G makes the most sense, take advantage where DVB makes the most sense, right? But that's the key direction, right? That standardization, creating that open environment.
On this, well, I think the evolution is obvious. We need to go for a more virtual environment everywhere, at the terminal levels with electronic antennas, with the elements more digital front ends, and everything connected to the network between satellite and the terrestrial networks. I think this is where we are going today. And also, we are incorporating, I was not talking about the magic words. We don't say anything about artificial intelligence or machine learning, but there are elements that are incorporated today to the ground segment and need to be deployed in the complete system. Then, finally, probably we can say, I insist, particularly on my side, about the automation of operation, because this is an important thing. This is an element which is relevant when we are talking about the cost of the mission, and for sure, this virtualization process and this integration process will help to reduce the cost of operations.
Okay. Justina?
Yes. So we're looking at edge computing. So since we provide the value-added services for image processing, we're also expecting to see more of edge computing becoming a popular thing for our Earth observation area. And that will help us to help with the latency and the bandwidth usage on our ground stations, but also help to provide the Earth observation satellite operators to get their data to a more near real-time analysis and processing stage. So that's a comment that I wanted to add, actually.
Okay. Final thoughts, VJ?
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, we do expect the hardware cost to go down considerably, and most important, the virtualization and digitization will optimize the teleport resources. The full network concept become now highly dynamic, with the traffic being moved from millisecond to RF link.
Okay, great. Can we take a look at the poll? So this, what do you believe is the primary barrier to achieving full digital transformation and virtualization in the satellite ground segment? So it looks like cost and legacy infrastructure.
Legacy.
Oh.
For legacy, we understand what I was saying before, to move from existing systems to buy virtual ones. I fully agree.
So maybe just to comment on that, right? Yeah, I think it's clear, right? We talked a lot about costs. Of course, there's also the installed base, right? Legacy infrastructure as well. So that's also something that we are addressing with our Intuition platform. That's what we call we bring together all the best technologies that we have in the company, but also we take into account that we can, as much as possible, enable the journey moving forward from existing platforms, right? For example, remote modems that are used today on the current platforms by the customers, they're also fully supported as well on the Intuition platform. So it's easy then to kind of evolve to that future environment as well, where you can take advantage of that virtualization without having to do complex operations on your install base, right?
Yeah, I think for me, security and reliability need to be addressed over here as well, because legacy hardware is directly dependent on third-party operating system, right? Some have been discontinued by the software supplier, and there is no support for upgrade. So that's something that we probably need to, be concerned of.
Okay, great. Justina,
Yeah,
final word?
just to add, so yes, ground stations are very hardware-based, but we're starting to see a trend of software ground stations, and you can see that with Kratos, who are turning the analog RF signals to digital. So maybe we'll see that trend to become more relevant, and then we'll see more of other antenna providers to sort of shift from hardware to software as well.
All right, great. Please join me in thanking our panelists.